In this movie, we're going to take a look at another Ruby method that's going to make good use of code blocks, and that's merge. And merge is going to be used for merging hashes together. And it's for hashes only. This is not for arrays or for ranges or strings or anything else. This is just a method that we're going to use with hashes. So let's open up IRB with a simple prompt. And let's start out by just declaring a hash. I'm just going to call it h1. Real simple. h1 is going to be equal to a, which will point to the number 111. And let's have b, which will point to the number 222. And that's our first hash. Now let's make a second hash, h2, and in that hash we're going to have b as a key for the value 333, and let's have c as a value for 444. Now you can put in just about anything you want here. The important thing about the two is that you'll notice that b is a key in both of the hashes, and that's because I want to show you what happens when we merge them together in that case. So all we need to do to merge the two hashes together is h1.merge and then h2. And it returns a merged hash. It takes the two and it smashes them together. And if there are conflicting keys, the values that are in h2 are the values that are going to win out. That's what we're going to have. So you'll see we end up with 333, not 222. And if we had merged it the other way around, right, you'll see that we would have ended up with the 222. All I did was switch which one was being merged into the other one. So this is just a real simple merge between hashes. It doesn't make use of a code block. And that's what I really want to illustrate here. Now this is just a very simple Ruby merge. We're not using a code block yet, and that's what we really want to see is how to make use of a code block. Well, we can also supply a code block optionally if we want. So I'm just going to hit the up arrow to get back to this h1.merge h2. Now the block in the case of merge is only going to be called when there's a conflict between two keys. So when it's merging together, it has no problems merging the A and the C keys together, right? It can easily just put those in there and there's no conflict. But what we're going to use is this block is going to be for conflict resolution. So we'll supply the block, and we're going to need to declare some values here. Now we can call these block variables anything we want, but there are three values that are going to be yielded up to us by merge. And so it makes a lot of sense to name them something that indicates what their purpose is. The first one is the key, the conflicting key. The second one is going to be the old value, right? The one that's in the h1 in our case. And the third one will be the new value, the one that's about to be overridden. Now, if I simply put a new here as the way to resolve this, I'll hit return, and you'll see that we get the same behavior that we got up above. If I go back and I change it to now be old, you'll see that now we get the other behavior, right? It kept the old value. The final value that we return out of the block ought to be whatever we want the new value to be. So the block essentially says, hey, instead of me automatically deciding which one wins out, let me pass you those variables and you decide. And at the end, what I need you to give me back is the correct value. Now we could put something very complicated in here, but ultimately what we need to come up with is the value that ought to win out between these two. Now if we did something like old times 2, you'll see that it did that for us, right? Old times 5. Essentially all we're saying is merge. Here's what I want you to do when you find a conflict. So as another example, let's have h1.merge h2 do, and let's go ahead and do our key, old, and new, just so we can keep those straight. And now let's do if old is less than new, then keep the old one. Else, return the new one. So do you see what we're doing? We're saying when there's a conflict, pick the one that has the lower value. I don't care which one's older or newer necessarily, or which one it came from. I want to make sure that I end up with the lowest value. And you'll see that it picked 222. Now this is a little bit of a clunky way to write it. Actually, you probably would want to write it using something more efficient like merge h2, and we'll use our inline notation. And I can just say KON, and that's going to indicate to me which one is the key, the old value, and the new. Old less than n, then return O, otherwise return N. And that's using that ternary operator notation that we learned back when we were doing our conditionals. So that's a nice shorthand for us. It does the exact same thing all in one line instead of being spread across several lines. The last thing that I want to show you about merge is you'll notice that merge did not change my original values that I started with. Let's go back to one of our merges that doesn't have a block to it. Here we are, h1 merge with h2. If I put an exclamation point after merge, now h1 has been changed. h2 is still the same, but H1 has the bang at the end, the exclamation point. So it has said permanently change this one. This is a common theme we'll see in Ruby where this exclamation point gives us sort of a different version of something, maybe a supercharged version. In this case, something that makes the change permanent. And just like the regular version of merge, we can also supply a block to this version that has the exclamation point.